Hi everyone, I'm at the station and I'm just waiting for my show to come on. The other show is ending and there'll be a moment of commercials because we need our sponsors and our commercials, and then we will begin. I'm trying to figure out what the best way is to do this with the whole live thing. Sometimes it gives me the opportunity to invite people, other times I don't see it. So, you know as much as I do with all of this. I see Daniel's getting set up in the control room. We'll be on in just a couple of moments here. So if you want to sit and watch the show, if you want to interact, reminder, you can call 888-565-1470. That's 888-565-1470 to call in. Or you can always make a little note on Facebook if I don't see it now because it's on the computer. I should say it's on the phone, not the computer. So it's a little difficult to kind of reach up and type while I'm trying to do the radio and also communicate. But if there's something asked that I missed, I will go back later, I'll take a look, and I'll be sure to answer you. So just one moment until we begin. I'm just listening here. It's exactly 4:30 now. The other show is finishing, hopefully. I don't know if you could hear it in the background. Yes. Okay, it's ending. Yay! So we will begin in just a moment. Better to have it on beforehand than too late, right? I think last week I was trying to get everything set up and it took a moment and we had already started. And I had to be conscious of listening to my cues for the radio as well as interacting with Facebook. Much easier when somebody else does it. Anyways, I'm just listening to what's coming on and then we'll get started. Hi Catalina, glad you're here. We'll be just a moment listening. I'm curious, can you hear what's taking place in the studio?
Finally, a spiritual show that isn't. So you get information to relax you, give insight into abundance, and imparts divine guidance. Be sure to call in at 888-565.
You should see the studio. It's amazingly clean. I mean, it really is. And there's only two people here. Me and Daniel.
Spirit mentor, Halley Élise, is just about to begin.
It is
so
just about to
don't miss
begin.
even a minute. Now, here's Halley Élise.
Hi everyone, so glad to be here. If you are thinking, hey, where's the video stream? I'm doing it on my own, or at least making an attempt. So far so good. I'm seeing a couple of people here with the whole Facebook Live thing on the Halley Élise page. So you are welcome to join us there. If you're on the radio, or I should say listening to the radio, and you'd like to call in, you can call in at 888-565-1470. That's 888-565-1470. If for any reason you're listening to 1470 AM and it's not as clear, you can always switch to 95.3 FM, just so that you know. And we are also on, I found out, 96.9. So you have 90, I have to think about this, 95.3 and 96.9 if you'd like to join us. So there you go. Trying to get it together today. All right, I promised everybody today's show was going to be about ways to increase your own intuition. And I know there's all sorts of complicated ways out there, and there are gurus that teach and you study for years and years and years. And the truth is, with any skill set, with any gift, you want to hone that. And just because you have that talent doesn't mean that it's precise, or it doesn't mean that it shows up when you always want it. And you have those other individuals who think they have something, but they haven't quite been able to identify it. It seems to just pop up in a dream sometimes, or they just get that funny feeling and they know something's going to happen. There are ways to increase your intuitive knowing. There are ways of setting yourself up for success. And I'm all about that. I'm all about you being empowered and having success and being peaceful along the way, because there's no reason to be stressed out if you want to improve something in your life, which is contrary really to what's been going on in our world of late, but not going there. This is going to be all about peace. One of the easiest things to do, and many who have come to my classes over the years or studied with me way back when in Nova University found out that I like simplistic and I like easy. And I like when you smile, and that's the whole idea here. That means I'm going to give you tools that you can use to enhance your ability or to tap into your abilities without the adversity, without the, oh my gosh, I have to work so hard at this. Now, consistency, that's another story. You can have simple and also be consistent. That is important, really and truly. You want to start something and keep working with it. And if you find that as you're doing some of these tools that I'm going to give you momentarily, that you really want more, just touch base with me, because I do have a psychic apprenticeship program. And it's filled with a plethora of ways that you really can hone your skill set and also expand in many other ways as you do it. Oh, I noticed Debbie there. Hi, Deb. How are ya? It's nice of you to tune in or tune on. I don't know. What's the right term for that when we're dealing with Facebook? I have no idea. And this will be, by the way, for those of you listening in on the radio who've not had the opportunity to go on Facebook, this will be on YouTube. If not later today, it will be on tomorrow, which simply means if you're not able to get everything, you can check back with us. Okay, that said, let me continue with the train of thought, which is consistency. Same with anything in our life, we need to be consistent. We can be great cooks, but if we want to repeat that same outcome, we need to keep up with it. And it goes with writing, it goes with singing, anything, any skill set, any gift. Hi, Tom. Sorry, hi, Jim. I took a quick look there. Happy New Year to you, too. Here's the thing. When it comes to your intuition, that knowing, it shows up in a myriad of ways. Some people will say, you know, I get that funny little feeling in my gut, and I just know something bad is going to happen. Or I get that funny little feeling and I know something good is going to happen. Or you have others who say, you know, it's the strangest thing. I always know when somebody's going to die. I get goosebumps when I think about that person. Or I wake up from a dream that I've had and I just know. Or it's, I wake up in the morning and I don't know, I just kind of have like this buzzing in my ear and I know that it's going to be an amazing day. You see my point here? That knowing shows up in a plethora of ways. And because it does, there are a myriad of ways that you can approach connecting with it. And what's really cool about this is, as soon as you start to have a bit of consistency with practicing your tools, with becoming more aware on a consistent basis, you'll find that other gifts open. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, I just had more of that gut feeling. And when I say years ago, I don't know, 5 years old, 6, 7, 8, that arena. When I was perhaps 11, 12, I started to perceive in different ways. Actually, if I go back even further, when I was about, I'm going to say 5, 6, I was clairaudient, which means I was hearing things. And the truth is, it upset me because I didn't quite know how to identify it at that age. And it was odd because in my head, I kept thinking, if anybody hears me tell somebody that I hear things, I hear voices, they're going to think I'm crazy, which in and of itself is kind of peculiar because at that age, we don't usually think that way. So there was some reason that I knew that hearing voices probably wasn't a good thing to share. And because it was so prevalent and constant, I would oftentimes go in my room and hold my ears and say, stop, stop, stop. I don't want to hear this anymore. I don't want to hear this anymore. I didn't know how to clarify it. I didn't know how to tap into it. And I would hear a multitude of voices at one time. Now, a lot of mediums, folks who speak to the other side, they get that a lot. A lot of folks who work psychically hear that and they're able to identify one particular sound or one particular voice. Now, at this age, I can do that. Back then, I couldn't. And it stopped. And I was really grateful. It wasn't until I was perhaps 16 and I attended a class and they were giving an explanation of different types of intuitive knowing. And they used the term clairaudient. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. That's what it was. Darn, I don't have it anymore. Over the years, thankfully, a bit of it has come back. My point being, it shows up in a multitude of ways. And if you're sensing in one way, it doesn't mean that it's an absolute. It doesn't mean that is the only way that you will sense. It simply means the more attention to it you give, the more expansive it becomes. And you hear me say this all the time. You hear so many folks who teach metaphysics or spirituality tell you about how you focus on something, it expands. And we have science to back it up, which is marvelous. Here's the thing. Be careful of what you ask for. And the reason I say that is some people say, oh, I really wish I could do what you do. I really wish I knew. And they'll study and they'll learn and they expand how they sense. And all of a sudden they're getting all sorts of information. And not everybody wants to deal with that. I mean, I can tell you, for instance, if you asked if I did mediumship, I would tell you no. Now, let me clarify that on occasion when I'm with a client, whether it's in person or on the phone, I may hear something or sense something or know something for that person from a deceased loved one. But I don't specifically connect with mediumship, meaning I'm not sitting and going, oh, there's Uncle Sam and he's got his gray hair and he's 6 foot tall and. That I don't do. It's more that intrinsic knowing that comes through or a voice that comes through for something that needs to be communicated. I wouldn't want to be a medium full time. Truly, I wouldn't want to. But I'm going to go full circle here. So I was sharing about how when I was little, there was that clairaudience. And as I got older, there were different things. When I was 14, 15, 16, I knew how to tap into energy, how to light a candle and connect with the peace in that moment and allow whatever information to come through to be seen in the candlelight, which is kind of a fun thing. And it does have a name and it does have a methodology and it has a history. And I'm not going to go into all that right now. What I will say is sometimes things come through and then you study them. Meaning all of a sudden it appears and you go, oh, what is that? And that's the way it's been with me over the years. It's like, oh, wow, that was interesting. How did I do that? And nowadays, thankfully, it's so much easier to find information. Not the same as it was years ago, where if you went to the library, good luck trying to find anything. Really, the only thing you could find on occasion was Edgar Cayce, which was wonderful because that was abundant information, and today too. But Edgar Cayce would go into a trance and he would get his I would say guidance, but also he would get remedies. He would get his knowingness through that trance. He worked very differently. So that brings me back again to everybody perceives in different ways. And just in case you think, oh, I have no intuition. I don't have any of that knowing stuff. It's great, but you know, I have good hunches when it comes to business, but I don't have any of that other stuff. Well, guess what? If you have good hunches when it comes to business, then you have a knowing, you have intuition, you have psychic ability. And the idea of the word psychic a lot of times is very distasteful to people because they think, oh, you have that crystal ball and you're going, ooh, and you're waving your hand over that ball. And it doesn't have to be that way. It truly doesn't. It's a word. It's a broad spectrum word that covers a lot of different modalities that have to do with the spiritual realm and that intuitive knowing. And this is why you'll often hear me talk about commingling intuition and intellect, because as far as I'm concerned, we have these gifts that are within. Why not bring them without? Why not tap into them to benefit ourselves? Okay, all of that said, talked about some tools here. One thing that you can do that is truly so easy is when you think about something and it seems out of whack. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're supposed to meet great Aunt Sarah and you meet her every Saturday like clockwork at 4 o'clock. And she's the one that expects you to come to the house. You're supposed to go to the bagel shop. You pick up things and you know what time you're meeting her and everything is good. But this particular day, you wake up and you have like a passing thought and you hear, you don't need to go today. And you think to yourself, that's ridiculous. I go every week. She's going to expect me. Why would I think that? And you dismiss it. And then you get there and she goes, oh, I forgot, dear. I was going with my friend. She came into town. I forgot to call you. I'm so sorry. But you know what? Go on in the house. We're leaving. You could go ahead and make yourself comfortable. And you think, why didn't I listen? Because you're not accustomed to listening. It is similar to a new language, and Catalina and I actually were discussing that recently. It is that hearing, that perception, that sensing, that knowing in whatever way it comes to you, being able to interpret it so that it works for you. And again, it may sound laborious, but it's not. It is just a matter of acknowledging it. We are such that our systems, as soon as we look at something and we go, oh, I like that, or oh, that makes sense, or oh, I want to see more of that, it sets a precedent. And the more often you do it, the more your mind will seek it out, the more you will be open to that thing that you were desiring, which means you knew about your aunt. So the next time you get that kind of weird little voice that says, hey, don't do this, or conversely, do this, you'll listen, because you'll have a point of reference for yourself. And each time you listen, you have to say to yourself, ah, that worked. I was correct. You could say it outside, you could do it inside, you could do the little happy hamster dance, but the point is, celebrate it. Make it into a big to-do. And the reason I say that is because, again, you're setting that precedent. You are communicating to your higher consciousness that this is what you want to do. You want to see more of these things. You want to experience more of these things. You want to feel more of these things. You want to be correct about these things. So that's one little tool that you can use. Very simple, right? Something happens, you notice it, you acknowledge it. When you're about it, you make a big to-do in your own head. When it comes to things that you don't care for, or things that you are incorrect about, acknowledge them as well, but don't labor over them. And what I mean is look at it and say, okay, that didn't work, but next time. And the reason you do that is you don't want to give a lot of energy to those things that are not supporting you, or those things that are not connecting you with your highest self. Makes sense. And it's pretty simple and pretty easy. Okay. Another tool that works really well, and I love this, is at some point or another, we are all in a car, right? Everybody's in a car at some point or another, unless you're a rarity and you only go on bicycles, but this can work for a bicycle too. Let's say you're at a street light and you are sitting in the white car, and there's a red car to your left and there's a blue car to your right. And you're thinking, wonder who's going to go first. In your head, instead of saying, I wonder who's going to go first, say to yourself the question, who is going first? And if you hear in your head the blue car, notice when the green light changes. Did the blue car go first? And again, if it did, celebrate that. Start noticing, start truly paying attention to all the things that are showing up that are correct, that are in alignment with that knowing. I have several other tools that I want to give you. We're going to take a quick little break. Yes, Daniel? Yeah. I'm getting the yes head. And we'll be right back. For those of you who are on Facebook, feel free to write a question, because in this moment I can answer. If you are on the radio, listening on the radio, I should say, in the car or at home or on the web, no problems. You can also give me a holler after the show if I've missed anything, but I will say that after break, if you want to call in and you have a question, it's 888-565-1470. We'll be right back. Okay, we are off air as far as the radio, but we are still on as far as Facebook. So if anybody has any questions or any comments, I think I can actually take a look at them. I don't know if this will allow me to do things. It will, maybe. Yes, I think so. And I'm hoping you can hear that too, so that if someone phones in, you'll be able to hear them. Did you catch that? That ooh sound? It's part of the new advertising that the show is practical spirituality, practical metaphysics versus the woo-woo. Again, commingling intuition and intellect. Okay, Catalina, wanted to thank you for the difference between resolution and intention. It has made my view in life lighter. Oh, So glad to hear it. That was last week's show. Well, thank you. I guess you actually watched it, which is awesome.
Halley Élise.
Just listening here. All right, we're back. That was a quick break, wasn't it? Before break, we were talking about different tools that you can use. And actually, they're just simple practices that you can use for yourself to really enhance your own ability. Now, I mentioned about when something comes to you, you're not really thinking about it. It just kind of comes in and you sense something. Definitely notice it. Acknowledge that you did it. Don't just say, oh, well, you know, that happened, but that's kind of weird. Because if you do that, you dismiss it. What you want to do is acknowledge that, oh yes, I did that. That's pretty cool. Whatever verbiage you use is fine, but the idea is to definitely pay attention to it. And the other is being in a car at a red light. Notice the cars around you. Notice by asking yourself who is going first, and then pay attention to that and celebrate when you are correct. When you're not correct, just let it go. And if you're thinking, but that doesn't make sense because it's 50-50, you could possibly tap in one time but not the next. The truth of the matter is, it's that consistency that we were talking about at the very beginning that will make the difference. If you are consistent about acknowledging when you are correct, you will find that you have more things to be correct about. It's just universal law. It's funny when I say universal law, everybody thinks, oh, law of attraction. And yes, law of attraction is one of the universal laws, but notice the word laws. There are a multitude of laws. There's the law of reciprocity, for instance, which is the idea of what you put out, you get back, but most people don't use it in that terms. They just go karma, you know, you put it out there, that's what's coming back at you. But it's law of reciprocity. Okay, let me get back on track here. Other tools, tips, very simple things that you can do to connect with your own knowing. It's interesting. Years ago, there was a rabbi in New York. He was a Lubavitcher rabbi, which is a very, very orthodox, very religious rabbi in New York, and everybody knew him. People would fly in from all over the world to talk with him, not just because he was a holy man or specifically a Jewish rabbi, but because he knew things. Prayer, connecting to the divine in whatever way is comfortable for you. Again, think consistency. If you do it on a consistent basis, you will find that your intuition enhances. Which simply means if you were accustomed to doing prayers on a regular basis and for whatever reason you got away from it, you may want to start again. And again, consistency. Create habitual patterns for yourself that give you an opportunity to get quiet, to get grounded. You don't have to quiet all the chatter in your mind. Unless you've been doing it for a really long time, most people don't close their eyes and instantaneously go into delta or theta state. I can do it. I know a lot of people who can do it, but we've been meditating for years and years and years, which is, believe it or not, going into that same state when you are in deep prayer. Because when you are in deep prayer, you're, again, connecting to the divine. You are not connected to everything all around you. And even though you may have stuff going on in your head, the chatter lessens without you having to say, oh, I don't want to hear that. I have to be quiet. I have to. Again, I like it without stress. Simple, easy. Think prayer. And if you think to yourself, well, you know, when I pray, I just ask for things. There are different types of prayer. It doesn't have to be supplicative, meaning it doesn't have to be, please God help me, or please Goddess, or please Buddha. It can be, thank you in advance for. And sit with that for a moment. Whatever that outcome is that you are desiring, fill in that blank and actually take a moment to feel, what does it feel like when you have that situation or that thing, when you feel as if the divine is actually giving you that big hug and holding you and supporting you in that, so that you are in a place of receiving. Because again, when you are in a place of receiving, that means you are connected with the divine. When you're connected with the divine, you are opening up to your intuition. It's amazing and it's easy. Prayer. And there are different types of prayers. If you need assistance with that, reach out to me. I'll be happy to share with you, because I know of 5 right off the top that, again, very easy. It's just a matter of tweaking how you do things slightly. That's all. And it does not take away from your religious beliefs. it actually adds to it. All right, so far, what do you know? You know that when something comes into mind, unexpected, don't dismiss it, pay attention to it. You know that when you have an opportunity to ask yourself what's happening or what's coming first, to do that. You can also use prayer to tap into your own intuitive abilities. Okay, right there, you've got several things to work with, right? The other is distract yourself. And if you're thinking, what? Really and truly, we often get into altered states of consciousness without going into deep meditation, without going into deep prayer. We often do it because we're cooking a meal. And I'll give you an example. You think, oh, you know, today it's a nice day, it's cool out, I think I'm going to make a pot of chili. And you start taking everything out and you start to prepare it, and it's on the stove, and you're just in that groove. You're going from place to place, from thing to thing, you're adding, you're tasting, and perhaps you started at 3 in the afternoon, and when you look at the clock, it's 5:30, and you have no idea how it went from 3 to 5:30. It's because you were in that altered space of consciousness, which means you're connecting actually with that right hemisphere of your brain, which is the creative, which is the abstract, which is that aspect of the brain that helps you connect to your higher mind, helps you to connect to the divine. So you want to be able to connect on a fuller, on a more consistent basis. If you find that cooking puts you into that state, cook more. Some people do it by coloring. Not even because there's anything in particular that they want to color. It's just the colors themselves create a sense of peace, create a calm, create an opportunity to get centered and to listen, because you're focusing on what's in front of you versus what you need to do. So here you go. There are several ways that you can shift your consciousness to be open to your own knowing, your own intuition. Now, I will tell you that there is clairgustance, which is taste. So you could be out somewhere in the middle of a desert and think, I taste Kentucky Fried Chicken. And you're thinking, what on earth is that about? And all of a sudden, your ride comes to take you to the next place that you're going to in the desert, and somebody had cooked up, not specifically Kentucky Fried Chicken, but fried chicken. Okay, silly example. But clairaudience, you hear things, and you wonder, where does that come from? It still comes from the same place. It's just how you're perceiving. There is claircognizance, which is that knowing. You just know, you don't know why you know, but you know that you know. Clairsentience, which is that feeling. It's that gut feeling, that gut knowing. It's also, it's so pronounced that there are no doubts. But there are also other ways of knowing. You may find that your left elbow bothers you every time there's going to be traffic, or that your nose itches anytime you're going to have a conversation with a particular person. Pay attention to your body as much as you're paying attention to what seems to be coming through to your mind. Also, flashes. And when I say a flash, sometimes you'll get an image that just kind of flashes through your mind. That can be clairvoyance. It could also be connected to claircognizance. Clairvoyance has to do with seeing what is to come. But again, how it shows up may be different from you than other people. These are things to pay attention to if you want to enhance your own ability. And they really are very simple. Just remember consistency. And if you're able to be consistent, you'll be surprised with the results you have. And also remember, celebrate. Every single time something comes to fruition that you felt, you saw, you tasted, you smelled, you heard, you engaged your senses on some level, or you dreamt. You woke up and you just knew the dream was true. Pay attention to it. Celebrate it. You will find that it continues to show up in your world. Now, if you folks want to call in next week, you are more than welcome. I'll give out the phone number again. It's 888-565-1470. If you want to connect with me privately, feel free to text. Actually, there's going to be a little commercial that goes on that gives that phone number here at the end. But remember, I'm here if you have any questions, and feel free to go to the website, HalleyElise.com. That's HalleyElise.com. Lots of information there. And I look forward to connecting with everybody next week. Thanks so much for being on here, as far as radio-wise, as well as Facebook. And if you're looking on YouTube, that means I've actually got it up and posted. Have a great day, everyone. Have a beautiful week. Take care. Bye-bye.